we doing tonight? It's a Monday night here, June the 16th. Hope you're all having a good evening. I figured I'd start at 1 minute early, it's about 30 seconds early tonight. Waiting on our guests to show up. I don't know why guests don't know to show up on time, but we deal with it. Here on the show tonight, we're going to talk about the war that's escalating between Iran and Israel. We've got some firsthand testimony on these No Kings protests and just how shitty they were, and a bunch of other stuff. But before we start, here's a message from our fantastic sponsors at the American Beverage Association.
Our nation is standing up for American workers, restoring the pride of making products here at home. That's what we do every day. We're America's beverage companies, making American products with American workers in America's hometowns, delivering brands that have been enjoyed for generations, creating good-paying jobs, the kind that require only a strong work ethic. Because we believe in the promise of America and the people who make it great.
All right, guys, I want to thank you for joining me tonight here, hanging out again in a little bit with Chris Putnam, the CEO of the Dallas Express, who had firsthand experience with all of the protests, at least in Dallas over this past weekend. I got away with not having to be around the protests. I was hanging around the YWLS with my assistant Trinity for a bit, so that was pretty fun. Let's go into what exactly is happening here. So we'll give you an update from Fox News. Let me see. Where's my little share screen at? There we go. According to Fox News right now, Iranian strikes on Israel escalate, killing at least 24 and damaging the U.S. Embassy branch in Tel Aviv. At least 24 people have been killed in Israel as Iran launched retaliatory airstrikes targeting civilian areas. A U.S. Embassy branch in Tel Aviv suffered minor damage. Here is from 1 hour ago. Trump says everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran, Iran, and that Iran should have signed a deal. Here we go.
And they were absolutely broke. If you remember back, you go back 3.5 years ago, you will see that there were reports, actually, even from the fake news, that Hamas, Hezbollah, they didn't have any money because Iran had no money to give them. They wanted to survive. And I didn't want to be better. I just didn't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I said, we're going to make a great deal. Everybody's going to be happy. You're going to be rich as hell again. Everything's going to be great. But you cannot have a nuclear weapon. Now they're 31 days away from having a nuclear weapon. And I'm not looking to be enemies with Iran. I'd love to get along with them, great. But they can't have a nuclear weapon. Just can't let them have a nuclear weapon. I'll say this, if they do have a nuclear weapon, Israel is gone. It'll be gone. I listened to Biden yesterday. Since I went under the wing, I used to go under the wing of the aircraft. Nobody ever did that before. I did it. All of a sudden, Biden started. But he only takes like a half a question. Usually can't answer. But they asked him, what do you think about Iran? Would you hit Iran? And he goes, as long as they don't hit the nuclear stuff. That's the thing you want to hit, right? I said, I think he's got that one wrong. Isn't that the one you're supposed to hit? I mean, it's the biggest risk we have. Nuclear weapons, the power of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt the entire military, jets, everything. I built it, including nuclear, and I hated to build the nuclear, but I got to know firsthand the power of that stuff, and I'll tell you what, we have to be totally prepared. We have to be absolutely prepared. But when they asked him that question, the answer should have been hit the nuclear first and worry about the rest later. And that's what they should. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it. But we'll find out whatever their plans are. But great question. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I would have been very good to Iran. They had to have one thing: no nuclear weapons. You can't have nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons are the greatest danger to our country going forward, to the world going forward. Well, they're very close to an agreement on Gaza, and we'll let you know about it during the day or maybe tomorrow, and we have a chance of that. And I think we have a chance of making a deal with Iran also. They don't want to be blown up. They would rather make a deal, and I think that could happen in the not-too-distant future. That would be a great thing if we could have a deal without bombs being dropped all over the Middle East. That would be a very good thing. They can't have a nuclear weapon. We want them to be safe. We want them to have a very, very successful nation. Let it be a great nation, but we can't have that. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. And I think we're fairly close to a deal with Iran.
All right, that again, a compilation of everything that Trump has said about Iran having a nuclear weapon. We're starting off the show by talking about that. Hey, Chris, I'm glad you're prepared for this.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you think we're going to enter a war here? Do you think we're actually going to get involved in this, or are we going to let? I mean, we are involved in this. Israel's got our money. Iran's got our money. Everybody's got our money.
And Israel has all our cool weapons, right?
Yeah, they got all the cool stuff. Are we going to actually get involved? Will there be U.S. troops involved? That's the real question here.
No. I think they've gone to great lengths to absolutely structure this as a proxy war. Maybe not a proxy war necessarily, but to obfuscate American involvement in what they're doing. I mean, the president, as you know, totally foreshadowed what was coming if they didn't agree to a deal. There's a lot of discussion just about, I heard certain Israeli officials say that while, they didn't, the administration didn't explicitly tell them they were good to go, that effectively they were given a green light. And so I absolutely believe that the United States prefers to keep it that way and act as more of a kind of good faith brokers as much as that's possible with the Iranians.
Yeah. Maria Isabella, hello. Keyboard Warrior, also, hello. If you guys are in the chat, make sure you say hi. If you're watching it on your phone, it's a little bit harder to find the chat, apparently, both on desktop and on your phone. But if you find it, make sure you got in there and say hello on the live chat. I think that this is going to stay a proxy war. And China's been flying stuff into Iran, right?
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, right? And look, I don't know if we're going here, but we're here because, the previous Trump administration, actually had a really effective deal put together with how to deal with Iran. And the Biden administration ignored it. They simply didn't enforce it. And so, here we are.
Yeah. I mean, they just kind of let the entire world go crazy, including our southern border and everything else. There was no protection whatsoever. We had no intimidation factor. Nobody was afraid of America. They knew that you could get away with anything you wanted. And also, I mean, hey, the Obama administration and Obama's third term there with Biden was continuing to fund everything that Iran could possibly want. So it was a dream situation for them. And
that's actually a really good point. I mean, the origins really go back to the incredibly awful deal that Obama initially struck with the Iranians, right? Where what we pay him is north of $1 billion. And they still developed this nuclear weapon capacity, right? Which is the whole point of giving them the money not to.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable what they were allowed to get away with. And here we are now, entering what could be, I don't know. I believe, I kind of wish I had my friend around with me too. I like having you here, but I had Victoria Coates on last week, the former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Trump in the 45 administration. And I think she's pretty confident that, we could win. Not only would Iran fall here, I believe that I think she said something along the lines of like the regime may fall by like next week. We don't know.
Iran's in a tough spot, as you know. There is no winning. I mean, just from a military point of view, the Israelis are far more sophisticated. I mean, the Iranians are short of, enriching plutonium to build multiple nuclear weapon capacity. They're using mostly technology, from the 80s in terms of military technology. So there's no way out of this for them. They're going to have to capitulate in some way, unless we're going to go have this fight and it does become a proxy war and the Chinese and Russians become involved. Then things obviously get messy. I don't think we're there right now. At least not while Trump's president.
Yeah. What is this here? I'm just going to go through a couple of the stories here before we go forward with all the other fun stuff we want to talk about here.
1 million people to come into our.
So it says Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney ends report of questions to President Trump early after brief remarks on Russia, Iran, Israel conflict and ICE. I don't understand what happened here. Let's see. Maybe we'll see more here.
Country. Of that, vast numbers of those people were murderers, killers, people from gangs, people from jails. They emptied their jails out into the U.S. Most of those people are in the cities, all blue cities, all Democrat-run cities, and they think they're going to use them to vote. It's not going to happen.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I'm going to exercise my role, if you will, as G7 chair, since we have a few more minutes with the president and his team, and then we actually have to start the meeting to address some of these big issues. So
Thank you.
Oh, that didn't seem. I thought that was going to be dramatic or something. That didn't seem like anything bad. It just seemed like he.
He didn't want to go there.
Yeah, he didn't want to go there. He didn't want to have to go back and forth with Trump or have anything maybe negative come out about Canada through.
By the
Trump.
way, is this guy better than Trudeau? I'm not so sure.
Worse?
He's
No, I
definitely
think
less. He's less obnoxious.
Yeah,
but-
I think he's way worse than Trudeau, though. Ultimately, I
Yeah,
think they'd be
yeah.
much more
Because
much
he's not obnoxious
yeah.
or less
You know,
obnoxious.
By the way, our friend James texted me earlier today, and he's like, "Do I have to just comment on your show?" Like, kind of sad. He wants to be a part of the show. I invited him on tonight, but
That'd be fun. You did today. That would be great with the three of us.
well, I said he was welcome to come on, but he didn't get back to me. I don't know.
That's unfortunate. Yeah.
He's always welcome on. Well, once in a while, if it's you, we can do like a local.
You know what? He might have stand up tonight.
Does he do? Does he go to improv school? And
Oh, he doesn't go. Well, yeah, he performs. We'll get you out to that one day.
well, you're gonna have to get me when I'm not on air, though. I'd love to perform again. Actually, I was talking with somebody today about it from PragerU. I've got a good friend over at PragerU, and we were talking a little bit. She's like, "When's the last time you did stand up?" And I was like, "It's been a while." But I'm in the middle of all this other production stuff and everything. I work constantly. Today was I have not had a break all day long. I started at 9:30 this morning. You know this. You run a couple of companies there, Chris. Like you start these days, and then it's like a full on day.
Yeah, and as you know, Monday resets the news cycle. We're the same way. Like I literally came straight from the office here to do this with you. It's and there's no shortage of news ever these days.
Yeah, but before we get into things, number one, Dallas Express. Which let me be a good steward. Good steward here. No, not Dallas Executive Airport. And I'm not sure why that was suggested to me before your own website there. The Dallas
That's an
Express.
SEO problem.
Please drink for me because it is an SEO problem. The Dallas Express, the People's Paper, conservatives, but by when I say that it's a conservative publication, I say it's an actual fair and honest publication. It's a crazy concept that's what you get from a conservative publication.
I think that's a good description. We're actually not trying to be overtly partisan in the sense that we're not trying to, and we're Dallas based, obviously.
Mhm.
We're not looking to be the DFW Breitbart or Red State. There's plenty of that, as you know. We want to redefine journalism in the new media way, where objectiveness and accuracy in reporting actually matters, and most importantly, and this is sacrosanct with us, getting both sides of the story matter. So if we report on a politician or regardless of what it is, we actively in an aggressive way seek to get both sides and represent, both sides of any issue. And of course, what I call the lying legacy media, they abandoned that a long time ago, and particularly the far left legacy media, of which both of my local competitors, the Dallas Morning News and Fort Worth Star Telegram, who I call the New Jersey Star Telegram because they're actually owned by a New Jersey hedge fund who purchased them out of bankruptcy from a California company. They're just straight up propagandists. And these are all the same outlets that gave you Russiagate and amplified that for 4 years and lied about COVID origins or amplified that administration's, lies about the origins of COVID or Fauci's statements to that explicitly. Hunter Biden laptop. I mean, just as it just goes on. Joe Biden's middle acuity. It just goes on and on and on. And just for the life of me, I don't understand why anybody spends a nickel on those publications anymore. And increasingly, they aren't. So we actually just crossed an important milestone. Our readership grew last year 50%. We've already grown it another 50% in the first half of this year, and we're now on track to double it well before the end of the year. So
Holy moly!
Yeah, it's been extreme, actually. And believe it, we just announced a really important partnership with Yahoo, believe it or not. One of the things that's changed with this administration is, some of these news outlets that aggregate a lot of local content from folks like us, used to shadow ban us flat out. But we've had, a lot of our growth has been because, Facebook's gotten with the program. They're doing less of that. And we have 850,000 followers there. And now we have, a formal relationship with Yahoo, and we're working on others. So we expect that growth trajectory to continue to be extreme and, fast.
Well, what's crazy is that you actually do have, and you have it on your website, your journalistic standards. You actually do have journalistic standards. I know you personally, I'm your friend, but I truly have seen some of the best reporting again that I've ever seen in the business from you guys. And right now, the stuff that's going on that you're covering is fantastic and fair and thorough and thoughtful. and exactly what you want from a news publication, the Dallas Express again. So anyway, all
Well,
that.
but, by the way, I can't tell you how much we appreciate that. And by the way, just to reinforce that point,
Yeah.
we, as you know, we may have talked about this already, so I won't dwell on it. But we had the biggest investigative story of 2024, the most read, the most viral, the story about the congresswoman from Fort Worth who literally was absent from her job, and she was the just recently retired chairman of appropriations for 7 months, and we found her in assisted living memory care facility living full time. And that got covered by everybody, including the New York Times, Washington Post, everybody. And Politico back in March even did a story talking about how we beat what they characterize as the legacy lazy DC media to a story like that one was right under their nose. And
Yeah.
so here's what happens now. Like they don't report news. They don't even seek to report it. The reason we've grown so much is because we report on stories that they will just not touch because it does not comport with their political narrative and agenda.
So I want to learn some etiquette here from your website, Chris, before we get into anything. The Dallas Etiquette Queen dishes advice on dating. I need advice on dating.
We do some
Not
of that
dressing
too, of course.
class, but the new face of etiquette. So I should do a podcast. If she's around, I would love to do a podcast with her and learn a little bit about dating and the delicate art of chivalry. What? She advises her single female clients to remember that they control the message they put into the world. The etiquette maven doesn't scold, but she advises gals not to show up to a date with a blouse unbuttoned to the waist. Dress like the kind of person you want to attract. Well, I dress like this.
And as you well know, being single, it's a different game out there today. Very different.
Office advice and clubbing. Does she caution people to not go clubbing? Probably.
I missed that part of the story. I don't do a lot of clubbing.
I mean, again, I've just been going through this as like this is scary. I want her on the show.
Give me the gal that wants to do cigars and old fashions and speakeasy. How about that?
Yeah, well, I don't think that's going to happen, Chris. I think it's going to be just you and me doing cigars and then speakeasy, buddy.
Or maybe that's why we're single. Or my favorite stunt date, which is wine and charcuterie on the grassy knoll. That's a great one.
I appreciate that. I used to do, you and I are very, very similar in that I used to do wine and charcuterie on the National Mall. That was my go-to.
There you go.
I'd stop by the Safeway.
Steps the Lincoln Memorial. Hey, baby.
Well, you can't do it there because you'll be busted. But in the middle of the field, they're not. The park rangers aren't looking for you to be drinking and whatever out there. So,
and if you go, if you get a little carried away with it, you go swimming, in front of the Lincoln Memorial, like Forrest Gump did.
That's right. I don't think that deep though that he get or no. I think that was accurate. The movie accurate. Anyway, whatever. It's been a long time since I've seen Forrest Gump. All right, let's talk about this.
You got to be creative these days, right? Most of these ladies have seen everything.
Pretty much. All right, I'm pulling up these videos in no particular order. You sent me, I think, one or two here. And this is hold on. So this is from the and because it's a vertical video, I can do this. Why did it just flip upside down?
I can't see it either.
Well, it flipped upside down. Let me try to. I'm confused.
I'll provide the context while you're doing that. So I'm bedded this weekend, this Saturday specifically, at the Dallas No Kings protest, and lots of interesting stuff.
Well, so this is their. They've got a pinata, which you can buy.
Yeah,
those pinatas, by the way, they just sell them.
Yeah, they had a Trump pinata, and if you get that video going, I hate to beat the punchline, but they were having a hard time with the stick, unblindfolded, actually getting the candy out of the pinata. So the guy eventually just gives up and tackles it.
It's very important, by the way. You can tell these people eat a lot of candy.
Yeah.
And, super weird.
The other thing that I noticed it was actually palpable at that particular event was the number of senior citizens, Caucasian, white senior citizens. And, we had a hot day here in Dallas Saturday. And it was every block. There were rows of them passed out on the sidewalk. Is that who's protesting now? It's like elderly white women, right? That are out there? Yeah, and men, but more women. I'm trying to figure that out. I think a lot of it has to do with the baby boom generation is not at all attuned to new media or alternative media. And so they only continue to, get what these liars, promote every day. And it's just, they simplify it, as you know, and then they get these folks, and they repeat it a lot, and they get these folks to buy into these narratives, and they just get themselves all worked up. And, my parents my parents are both 80. They sit around watching Fox News every day. And I'm like, that's not healthy. It's not,
Yeah.
And so, but, a lot of these folks are really worked up, and it's because they've been, they've been encouraged, and they believe a lot of this nonsense. Like, I tell people about King's Day, how silly is it? These people are carrying these Mexican flags. There's a lot of photos of that I got too, right? And,
Mhm.
by the way, some of them chanting in Spanish. And I'm like, if any of these people literally had the option to go back or not, there's no way they're going back. There's
Yeah.
no way they're going back. So, what's your point exactly? And what did you accomplish, with these nationwide protests and riots?
I,
What was
yeah,
accomplished?
nothing at all.
Right.
Here's
It's just a party out of power and a bunch of billionaires and the Chinese, by the way, behind the funding of these and organizations of these things that are literally just trying to work people up because they don't have another outlet. Whether you believe it's a color revolution or not, I think there's some merit to some of that.
yeah.
But they're completely out of power, and they just have no way to express themselves.
Here's an interesting character. He looks like
That's
doesn't
my caption, by the way. So
he doesn't look like somebody I would go to for sports betting advice, but he does seem like someone who. Right,
the other contingency is, it was literally every theater kid that you ever met in high school.
that's
And do you have to, like, one guy had a sign that's like, I skipped D&D for this today. And I'm like, people are like, dude, you're like 50.
strong. That's like a,
Yeah, you had a lot of Mexican nationals, probably, a number of folks who are Hispanic that are legal, but don't support deportation. As we know from our electorate, a lot of them do, like 50%.
most of
And
them.
then a bunch of white liberals.
Sounds par for the course. Sounds par for the course for all this stuff. All right, let's go to your next photo here. Now what are we looking? Oh, here's a
Trump's
lady
head on a
who
stick.
she has incredible triceps there.
Yeah, and that one I just we get lectured all the time about right-wing political violence, which if you just look at it objectively, the scorecard is very much tilted in the way of the left, and then they're promoting images like this, of course, with the president's head on a stick. We saw a lot of that.
I mean, it's so ridiculous at this point, really. When I see these people, this is somebody's gym teacher. She's out here. She's got nothing better to do. She went and she's LARPing. She went and got her little fatigues on. I like that she has army fatigues and a peace sign purse that looks like a pillow. Maybe she made it herself. They're still going with the Putin puppet thing that I can't believe is. I mean, that was a total media lie for years.
Go back to Russiagate.
Started with Hillary, of course, and here we
Why
are.
would anybody believe them? Back to what I said earlier. Why would anybody believe anything they say? It just mystifies me.
It makes no sense. But let's get a real good shot of that forearm. There we go. I mean, those triceps. That is
that is a lady. I didn't notice that like you did. Like
she's read about push-ups, but she's never experienced one in her life, and that's where she's having that. Chris, you said you were single. Why? When you could be her?
I don't know that I want to go there.
All right, let's go to the next one over here. Oh, there we go. This guy. Now he looks nice. This guy. Yeah. Ice ain't shit. Wow.
The other thing we saw a lot of there. So the new thing is, all the Mexican flags at these events, particularly the ones in LA, were really blowing back on them, from a polling point of view. And so they were passing out American flags like you wouldn't believe. Or they had this one flag that's like half American flag, half Mexican flag. But there were still a ton of just Mexican flags, and as I mentioned earlier, people chanting literally in Spanish. And then you're mixing up the Free Palestine group. They're all in there too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
See
there's a
if you
lot of
find that.
foreign money in this. You gotta take all the foreign money you can on both sides and go and throw in where
And
you
all the
can, I guess.
and all the NGO money that
Oh yeah.
is behind most of this. Yeah, as we've investigated, and we have really high placed sources in the administration and in the State Department and in some other departments, but a great deal of the funding, particularly for LA, came from the Chinese. There's an American wealthy guy who expats to China, and I apologize because I should know his name off the top of my head, but I
All right.
don't. I
Yeah.
believe it's Lindsay, but like he's been responsible for funding a normal number of these organizations that promote propaganda in the United States. So they were one of the big organizers in LA, and his wife happens to be the head of Code Pink. Imagine that.
Yeah, of course. By the way, I really like that James. I said, hey, do you want to come on the show tonight with Chris? And he just texted me now. What time?
Get
Oh,
him on
no.
here.
Oh, no, bitch. I just said to him here. I'll actually send him an invite here.
Tell him we'd rather have, I think it's Squirt McReynolds.
What?
Maybe I just blew his cover. I don't know.
This is
Probably-
gross. This is like this is all they think
Yeah.
about. They like do.
Yeah.
It's like gross, like penis stuff all the time with them too. Like they're like obsessed
Mhm.
because everything is like sex and like sexualizing everything that they can. Like this is so gross to me. I'm gonna get rid of that one.
Did
Couldn't
you
preview
get
them.
the video of one of the things that was really ironic and hilarious? And this is when I went to recon the event before the event. There's a line of buses. This is a couple blocks away.
Mhm.
Buses, and it was a strictly African American contingent. Which, by the way, I mean, outside of LA, at least here, with respect to these immigration protests, we don't see a lot of. But they were passing out packages for the protest. I don't like to use the term protester, but for the people that were
Right.
involved in the event,
Yeah.
these packages, maybe there were checks, I don't know, but they were
Well,
but they
didn't
were
we see
handing out
that? Haven't
were
we seen
handing
that
out
before?
they were handing out these event kits out of the back of a Cybertruck.
Oh, you gotta be kidding
Now
me.
I don't know how it gets more ironic than that. The very thing that they're protesting, basically, right? And they're handing out protest material from a Cybertruck.
But haven't we seen protesters get paid before? Haven't we
Oh
seen them
yeah,
actually get handed like packets of money? I mean, it's pretty obvious when it comes to this stuff. Let's see here if I can get like
yeah.
balance.
So back to the funding and organization sources, which we've been spending a ton of time on. So LA again, it was mostly, and those were more classical riots, as you know, they were very violent. That was
Mhm.
funded in large part with the Chinese money. King's Day was actually, separate source. It was your Soros's, and a story we're going to actually break here in the next 24 hours. There was a lot of USAID money that didn't get cut. That Marco Rubio and some other folks that are more classically tied to the deep state. Marco, of course, a longtime senator, was pressured by a number of other senators on both sides of the aisle not to cut. And Data Republican, I want to give her full credit. She initially broke this, and a number of other outlets dug deeper. And she's got a great set of research on this that literally traces back those NGOs that either USAID funded this year or continue to fund that were organizers of these events. So U.S. taxpayers are still we're paying for this. We're paying for this.
Hey, by the way, this is going back to our initial story here. This is Chris Salcedo just sent me this. Maybe he's watching tonight. Big
The
fan.
liberty loving Latino.
Yes. And so here we are. This is apparently a mass exodus from Tehran tonight.
Yeah, I saw that video earlier. Yeah.
They are oops.
They're getting, yeah. The sad thing about Iran is, for those who know a lot about it, I mean, a lot of that culture is pretty westernized, and they don't like a lot of what's going on, but they just never get it together enough to, have a proper revolution, and I can't tell you the reasons for that. I had a lot of friends that were over there, believe it or not, back in the 70s or the 70s when it all went down with the regime change there. And then, by the way, as we're talking about U.S. responsibility for a lot of these things, as you well know, we created that problem in Iran with the Shah. I mean,
Yeah.
that was your neocon regime change crap that we've been doing for decades.
Put that in the middle there. Yeah, no. So I mean, this is we've created a lot of the world's problems as America through the years. We're kind of known for that. I think that's kind of a
Specifically our intelligence communities. And, as you know, we hosted a huge event last week on Monday. It's part of our series about the JFK files called "Who Killed JFK," and had two of the most notable assassination researchers in the world, at the event. And I call the JFK assassination the original sin. And if you remember, the assassination was not long after Eisenhower left office and warned all of us about the increasing influence, of the military-industrial complex. And and our conclusion is that there was absolutely some form of government involvement. We can debate what that is and who it is and everything else, but there were people that knew and were involved. And the Warren Report's a joke. It was headed by the very guy that was probably instrumental in a lot of that. And by the way, the American people overwhelmingly agree with that conclusion at this point, as does our own government. There was a congressional hearing last week where physicians that were on staff at Parkland Hospital basically were like, "There's no way this happened without 2 guns and 4 bullets." And so the point of all that is, if it's okay to do that, anything's possible. And so when we flash forward and we look at things like Iran and what happened in the 70s and the origins of COVID, which they absolutely lied about, vaccine efficacy, which they absolutely lied about, the number of vaccine deaths, which nobody's still come clean about, Biden's laptop, everything else, like, you can understand how we got here. But my view is until we cleanse as a country ourselves of that original sin and be honest with ourselves about it, everything else is acceptable.
All right, let me read some comments. So Mariana, immigrant here, I support 100% of the deportations. Expert says, I like the way you shamed your guests for being late. Yeah, show up on fucking time. Let's see. Oh, when you said Lindsey earlier, Lindsey Graham, he's unfortunately my senator.
That's not who I was referring to, but I've met Senator Graham. He's actually like a super affable guy, which is why he continues to be elected.
Yeah.
But
we need to stay out of things as much as possible, says Julia, and also like we supported the Taliban initially. Yeah. So there we go. Hello everyone. Make sure you get into the chat. If you like this so far, hit the retweet button. Chris, did you hit the retweet button on this live?
Of course not, because I was late.
Well, yeah, that's what happens when you're late. By the way, while you're doing that, according to leading report, China has urged its citizens in Israel to leave immediately. So that's interesting. But like I said earlier, apparently there were shipments of something that went untracked going into Tehran. And this is a very interesting situation. And I don't think China wants to mess with Donald Trump, but I think we know kind of where this is going. And I just hope it ends quickly and that, again, I'm not a fan of war in any way possible.
No, nobody wants that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so there's that. And then again, going back to, and that report is from Chris Salcedo as well, who sent that to me. But again, this is
by the way, Tim, my concern is permanency. And that's with all of these reforms. Like a lot of the reforms that we saw, particularly coming out of the gate after the inauguration, were fantastic. Like, did you ever I'll tell you, I didn't ever in my life expect to see an opportunity to actually reduce the size, scope, and influence of the federal government. But it was being delivered and at scale. And now it's kind of gone sideways a little bit again. And I don't think people really have a full appreciation when we talk about deep state, like just how entrenched and powerful it is. And it's up to the president to listen to the right people. And, one thing that 2016 taught us is he doesn't always. And he's human. That's fine. I'm a fan of what he's doing. I don't classify myself as MAGA in any way. I'm more of a, personally, not from the outlook point of view, a Goldwater conservative, but permanency. So, the Chinese, as you know, they play the long game. And they may play ball in the short term and whatever extractions that we, or whatever concessions we extract from them as it relates to trade and even this situation, 2 years from now might not matter. If Republicans lose, either the House or Senate, we're back to gridlock there, and or Democrats win the presidency in 4 years. And so they're very, very patient.
It says Trump is departing the G7 after calling for mass evacuations in the Iranian capital. So interesting stuff happening here. Again, we've got video in of it looks like a mass exodus. This is being reported as a mass exodus from Tehran. If you're going the opposite way in traffic, though, are you asking yourself, like, hey, where was the car accident at up front? Like, why is everybody why are they stopped?
Can you imagine if there was ever like and I'm sure there have been, but they haven't been publicized, but like a legit nuclear threat in New York City? I mean, getting out of there, forget about it. Like, pull up a chair and grab a drink, or watch the end of the world.
This looks like downtown Dallas. You're the CEO of the Dallas Express. This looks like literally when you're trying to go down
at Central Expressway.
Friday night.
Yeah.
8. How many lanes is that? That's 6 lanes. I mean, for all we know, again, like, this is unconfirmed. Like, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know what the Tehran skyline looks like. Sorry, I'm not that global I'm not a global expert to that level. But we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like 6 lanes there trying to get out into 2. That looks like Dallas to me. But
well, look, this may blow back on me someday, but there is no way Israel's dropping a nuclear bomb. That's not happening. They've been incredibly calculated about targeting military targets specifically and warning people to get out of the way of those military targets. And I'm not even taking a side here. I'm just saying that that's a fact. And so, who knows what these people are being told?
Yeah.
But the Israelis haven't been targeting the civilian population. That doesn't mean there's not collateral damage, and I also don't believe there's any chance in hell they're dropping a nuclear bomb in there.
No, I don't think so either. I want to talk. We'll come back to that in a second. We'll see if anything else is coming in. Again, I want to thank Chris Salcedo for his help with that. I want to cover this other story really quickly here with you. This is from this weekend as well, and I need to make it so we can see full screen. This is in Bay County, Florida. There was a scheme that was picked up. 8 people, including 2 DMV employees, were getting fraudulent driver's licenses to illegal aliens. Here you go.
It says hundreds of fraudulent driver's licenses were distributed right here in Bay County. News Channel 7's Austin Maida has been following the story and joins us with the latest. Austin.
Barry, 8 people have been arrested after a joint investigation by the Bay County Sheriff's Office and Homeland Security Investigations. They say illegal immigrants were paying to obtain those driver's licenses illegally.
About a month ago, we began investigating information that individuals within the Bay County tax collector's offices were issuing fraudulent driver's licenses to aliens.
2 employees were allegedly issuing the licenses to people without the required testing. Some of those, they say, are illegal immigrants.
Analysis of financial records confirmed that the employees were receiving large sums of currency from numerous sources.
Sheriff Tommy Ford says 2 employees of the tax collector's office, 37-year-old Bancel Velasco and 30-year-old Demetrius Smith II, were arrested Wednesday for their role in the scheme to provide licenses to individuals who never took required driving tests.
Can I just tell you, these 2 don't look like they're smart enough to be able to run one of these, like, schemes. So more power to him on that. I don't like breaking the law. I'm not supporting this, but like
that guy on the right, he looks like the president.
Yeah, or like what Whoopi Goldberg's going to look like on another month of Ozempic. But I look at these 2 and I say to myself, they're peaking. This crime spree that they're on, this is it for them. I'm not saying that just because they're going to jail, but like they're never coming up with another idea as good as imagine if they came up with like a legal idea.
Hopefully they really scored on the monetization, but I think it's
do they I guess in this instance they they're probably getting like $100. What do you like? I wonder what the details were on that. Like, how much did you get?
By the way, that's a red state. You don't think that's been going on in all these blue states?
I mean, it's like completely legal in blue states. They just let it go. But here in again, and Bay County, Florida, I don't know where is Bay County is like Panama City, right? So like, it's not for nothing. It's not a terrible county either. You're not in the sticks. Here we go.
These weren't minor shortcuts. These were intentional acts of corruption where individuals paid bribes in exchange for skipping critical safety evaluations.
Officials say 5 more Panama City residents acted as brokers, funneling people from as far away as Miami to Bay County to get these licenses.
Well, to be honest, so like,
there you go.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Two of them, owner and employee of a local company called Cuba Max. Another,
Who could forget Cuba Max? But her name is Zoila and Ubris. Zoila and Ubris. I mean, I didn't know that those names existed on this planet. You know what? These sound like names from Stargate.
You could sub. By the way, you could sub out those mug shots for like all these female teachers in Texas that sexually assault their students.
These two.
I think we have the market cornered.
Yeah,
on
we
that
kind of
one,
do.
actually.
I think that is like a Texas thing.
I mean, I didn't have any of them when I was growing up.
I have a story. My advisor told a teacher to stop talking to me when I was a student government president back in the day. Said he's a student, lay off.
What was his name?
No, funny, very funny, very funny. No, she was like 22. So how about them apples? No, but these two names, Zoila and Ubris, sound like people who came through the Stargate from the other side. You know, the weird Egyptian planet.
a local company called Cuba Max. Another, a man with warrants for 4 counts of human trafficking in Texas. 3 others were arrested.
Hold on, your hair doesn't count, by the way.
So see, that's why they look like
This is like this guy's like on a dating app when he like signs up for.
He was trafficking them into the Texas public school system.
When he's counting that for another 2 inches of hair, he angled his head back. He's like, I'm going to pretend that I'm actually 5'10" when I'm really 5'7".
3 others.
He does have a cool brand, Cuba Max.
And Hung Do. Hung Do is there too. Who could forget Hung Do was part of it?
Others were arrested, including one not identified as a broker, but one of the estimated hundreds of people who fraudulently obtained licenses through this scheme. Bay County Tax Collector Chuck Perdue says the findings were unexpected.
I am angry. And I'm shocked to learn that these individuals, now 2 former employees, engaged
Oh shit, they were unexpected. But you don't think that you're
in fraudulent activity that violated the trust of our office and our community.
The investigation began May 20th when it was noticed that numbers at the tax collector's office were strange.
An employee on average during the month will do 20 to 25 road exams. I had one employee, Mr. Smith, who did 295 exams 1 month.
Perdue says his office is taking action to keep this from happening again.
We have a lot of
No shit.
opportunities for improvement.
We're just going to let it keep going.
And I look forward to working with our state partners and our law enforcement agencies to put those processes in place.
Authorities all.
Wow, this is the poorest. I think you have better production at you definitely have better production at Dallas Express than does Channel 7 in Panama City, where they. I mean, again, these
others were arrested.
The gene pool's not real. I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, it's a shallow gene pool there.
It's not good. It's not good. Hung Do's out there doing the
Family
most.
trees don't fork.
Hung Do's out there doing the most, and then there's the other ones.
By the way, that should be the name of an indie like emo band or
Hung Do.
something. Hung Do.
Is Brietta Parr. This is
Yeah.
the most confusing amount. Like these names are the most confusing names. Zwala and Ubris, and then
but no red
is
flags.
Brietta and Hung Do. Myrna's the most normal name of the whole pile.
I think we should actually produce our own Netflix miniseries on this.
How to pronounce their names?
Just the names alone. And the trafficking of these individuals to Texas.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, no, I don't. What a mess, by the way. And if it happens there again in Bay County, Florida, it is absolutely happening in every.
Actually,
go ahead.
No, I was just saying. I was listening to somebody today. Might have been on James Station BAP, talking about how the blue states fight so hard to not, be able to characterize people as illegal or legal in the census data, and how, as a result, those blue states are like radically overrepresented now in Congress because they absolutely refuse and have taken to court many times to ensure that everybody that takes the census appears to be legal. And so illegals are literally influencing, our congressional body makeup as a result.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And this is one way you would do it in a red state. You don't have to do it in a blue state because they don't care. They'll give you a driver's license and free healthcare anyway.
And whatever they can hand you for free, and then they'll find more ways to give it to you for free. And now, when they're murdering members of their state state house that don't vote in the right direction to give free things out. That's not helping things.
Remember when replacement theory was like a white nationalist thing? I mean, isn't it like completely clear at this point that that was in fact
That was
the
the
objective?
game the entire time. That was absolutely the game the
Right.
entire time.
Yep.
All right. Well, there went that, and of course, everything is happening now in Israel. Let's see if there's anything else happening on Breaking Down One. I want to interview. I want to do the. Here we go. So, according to and I'm not going to.
Someday I want to come on. We're looking at it up. Someday I want to come on and talk about how the NBA is completely rigged with the lottery system.
Really?
And I'm from Dallas. Yeah, man. So like I've been watching this really closely because a lot of folks watching may not know, but you know, there's this miracle where here in Dallas, the Dallas Mavericks traded a generational player. Fan base turns completely on them. In Dallas, we've never won the NBA lottery ever. 1.6% chance, the lowest odds of anybody in the lottery winning, and voila, number one lottery pick, can't miss prospect. This kid Cooper Flag from Duke. And then we go back and research it. In the last 4 or 5 major NBA trades that were like trading a superstar that didn't seem to make sense. A lot of times the Lakers, by the way, because the Lakers are so critically important to the, and I'm sorry, because I know I went way wild card here, but the Lakers went so, you know, they're so important to the health of the NBA. The team that traded that player ends up with a number 1 pick. Like it's right. The data's clear. And so, like, I'm just having a little fun digging into that.
Well, we'll play on that maybe one day. But this is from, by the way, this is from a couple of days ago, too. These are leftists at the U.S. Capitol. Can you explain to me, Chris, you run a news organization. Why wasn't this national news? Here they are trying to run into the U.S. Capitol. Can you explain to me why this isn't? Because you know what that looks like to me? It looks like an insurrection. You see the camera guys running after them, by the way? And this goes on for like a minute or so here. I mean, this sure does look like.
I wonder if the Capitol Police opened the doors.
Hey, look, they were just
around like
January 6th. They were fighting with the cops there a second ago. The cops actually are holding them off. But here comes more crowd. And like again, and the cops, I can't help but notice the cop just flipped that one, but they're not arresting them. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here.
This is just an this is part of the No Kings protest, I believe.
Tim, did you see the video of the one rioter in LA that, you know, tried to block the law enforcement vehicle, and they basically just pushed them over until they fell back and hit their head? I don't know if they died or not. But my question is, like, you see a lot of this in Europe, by the way, because in Europe you have all the wacko climate protesters, right? That literally make people's lives miserable, you know. But what should the policy be? What should the policy be? What should law enforcement be doing about that? When, you know, we had Dallas, the example is they love to close the Margaret Hunt Bridge as an act of protest, right? So inconvenience people. What should we be doing?
You know, my opinion on this is by any means necessary, get that road open again, because there are lives at risk. Every time you do that, there's somebody who could be suffering in their car. There could be somebody in an ambulance that needs to get emergency help and an emergency care that their lives are on the line. So I think it's by any means necessary you get the people off of these roads. I don't, there should be zero tolerance. Obviously, I'm all for zero tolerance for all this stuff, but it is in my mind, it's a 100% should be zero tolerance by any means necessary. And like, I'm not saying like, you know, run them over or whatever, but there should be cops out there to pull them off. And if they can't do that, then whatever happens. And I think
what if somebody's physically assaulting your property, your vehicle, kicking it, ripping the side?
You should have the right to at least flee the scene by stepping on the gas pedal. And that is, again, like if you feel that you are in imminent danger, you have a right to defend yourself and or flee the area. Again, it's a by any means necessary. What do? You have the right to defend your person and your property. But your person in particular, because in this instance, it's not somebody, you know, just like banging your car when you're not in it, you're in it. So what happens when when they get done with the car? What happens when they break the window? What happens when that last line of defense goes? They're after you ultimately. I mean, that's what happened with that guy
agree.
in what was the guy in Austin, right? It wasn't a BLM protest, and they had an AK-47, and he defended himself. He was like an Uber
Right.
driver, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Did he got a pardon, right? Didn't Abbott get him out of jail?
I actually can't recall,
I think he did.
but I do know the use case.
But it's
You know, it's like I saw this meme the other day, and it's like, here's how you deal with these protests. And there's this dude in a balloon dropping job applications down into the protests. Maybe if we turn it into a game and there's a point scoring system
for people who, yeah.
Like,
I mean, again, like what do you do? What do you do in that instance? You can't just ask me the questions here. What do you do?
it's never happened to me, frankly, but I would have a very low tolerance
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. I mean,
In particular, I mean, if you're just blocking the vehicle, I'd be patient, wait for law enforcement, regardless of whatever other circumstances I was dealing with, unless it was a medical emergency. But if you're gonna, assault my vehicle, my property, at the risk of assaulting me, we're not going to tolerate that too long. Like you said, I'd hit the accelerator. I'd warn them that I'm carrying without, displaying the firearm. And from there, it's their fault for whatever escalates. I didn't create the situation.
I'm just going over to CNN to see what they're talking about here. And it says Iranian state TV attacked by Israel while live on air. Apparently that happened today. Did you see this? I did not see this. Oh, I did see this video. Have you seen this video?
I haven't. I've been heads down all day. There's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
I thought you meant it was going to be like a cyber attack or something. They took the network
No,
off.
they hit it.
That's wild.
I don't know how you, by the way, like, again, like I don't know who this is or whatever, but that's got to be crazy to be reporting on the attack on your own media center, your own, like I guess that's his office back there. And he's like,
maybe, by the way, instead of all those people falling out to leave Tehran, maybe they should be converging on the capital. You know what I mean?
They could probably stop some things, if they wanted to.
Again, there's a lot of good people over there. A lot of good people that are westernized, and they're sick of this nonsense, but it's been going on for decades. And at some point we have to, the citizenry, much as we did, as Americans did back in the day, have to take it upon themselves to push back.
I didn't think they let women on TV in Iran.
Oh yeah, I didn't note that.
I mean, she's, holy moly. I guess not much story there. They just wanted to show the video.
How long do you think this situation lasts?
It's either going to be, by the way, I wish I could just get rid of there we go. It's either going to be real fast or forever. It's either going to be over, within the week, or
this isn't like a Hamas, situation there where they have close proximity and they can, employ a lot of urban guerrilla warfare tactics. They're limited to firing missiles, that aren't the most technically sophisticated. And Iran can pretty much pinpoint targeting however they want.
Yeah, it's gonna be a bit. I was told apparently everyone in Israel across the board is in bomb shelters tonight, so they're prepping for everything. There's only so much the Iron Dome can handle over there.
Yeah, you're gonna sneak a few through.
But the nuclear. Here, this is actually. I hate to admit that CNN has good coverage, but
have you seen the news though on what precipitated the exodus from Tehran?
No, I have not. Here's the Israel strikes in Iran and the Iranian nuclear facilities.
I heard death counts yesterday of like 900 plus Iranians, and double. It's like teens.
It's 24 in Israel right now. Yeah.
Okay, 24. Yeah, but again, That's with Israel targeting military installations, and of course, there's always collateral damage, and they use humans as shield in schools and everything else, as we know. And so when you and the Iranians, on the other hand, they can't target that accurately. I mean, they're just lobbing stuff into civilian areas.
Yeah. This is definitely not something I'm looking forward to here. I'll tell you that.
No, it's awful.
Yeah. Although I think there are a lot of Warhawks in DC who are very excited every time they.
By the way, why? When was the last time we really talked about Ukraine and Russia?
It's been a minute.
I mean, it's like it doesn't exist.
It's been a minute.
Anymore.
Yeah. No, that's
yeah.
We that forever war is still forever warring.
And when you think about that, right? None of these things, from a media point of view, happen on accident. There's a reason that the legacy media, in particular, wants your attention diverted from that.
Yeah.
And on to these, these protests and riots and the situation. Of course, the situation in Iran and Israel absolutely is an existential threat to all of us. And if you project it out, so it's valid. But at the same time, it occurred to me just yesterday, I was like, we haven't even talked about Ukraine and Russia in a while.
Let's see if there's any. I will. So we're gonna go here. Let me open this up. This little Google search that I just did. Top stories. Fact check at G7. Trump made false claims about Trudeau, Ukraine. Okay, well there we go. Putin and Trump discussed Middle East tensions, Ukraine war, and phone call 2 days ago. 6 hours ago, Ukraine takes first step toward carrying out minerals deal with U.S. Did you know that?
Did not.
Well, you're not going to know about it because apparently it is just it's a behind the paywall.
Behind the paywall, and potentially too good news to share with the American public.
More than a month after Ukraine signed a landmark agreement granting the United States stake in its mineral reserves, Kiev is striving to, and that's all you're going to get from the New York Times. There you go. Ukraine war briefing 12 minutes ago. Kiev under Russian drone attack with apartment building hit. There you go. Because didn't Ukraine hit a Russian airfield?
I don't know. It's like every day there's something.
Yeah, I don't either.
It's just that it's interesting. Like, just as you sourced, looking for information on that, it occurred to me that this is what we all do, right? I mean, I'm guilty of it too. We go to the Times or the Post or whoever, and it's like, why do we even do that? Like, these people lied to us about everything. I mean, for a long time now, and it's not even a dispute. I mean, there's a reason we don't talk about COVID anymore, because they don't want to talk about it, because they don't want to be accountable for what happened. And, it's the same thing with all the Biden stuff, and there's tons of Biden stuff, everything. The Biden Foundation received $40 million, Biden Foundation, from the Chinese. We never talked about that because they don't want to, Once this
Hyundai dealership ad is done, apparently a Pennsylvania native was killed today fighting against Russian forces in Ukraine. Why? Do you think they ask? You're a news guy. Do you think they ask God damn, this is a long commercial for like nothing? It's like a minute long commercial they have playing for this shit. Jeez.
Oh, just to get to the video. Yeah. FYI, I'll do a super fast commercial. DallasExpress.com. Dallas Express is free. There are no paywalls, and there are no advertisements.
I'm not even kidding you. That advertisement was like a full minute, and this clip is 35 seconds. What are you doing?
Yeah, just to get to NBC, he's gonna feed you a bunch of lies.
So here you go. Here's WGAL NBC 8. We'll just see this report.
A Pennsylvania native killed overseas while fighting with the Ukrainian army in their war with Russia. The family of Bobby Petrangelo of Hilltown, Bucks County, and a graduate of Penn Ridge High School says the 23-year-old died in action during a Russian offensive in the city of Pokrovsk. The family says he initially traveled to Ukraine in the spring of 2022 to assist with humanitarian efforts, but went on to join soldiers on the front lines. His mother says he was killed by a grenade on January the 3rd after being overrun in the trenches. As Russia still continues to occupy the city, his remains have still not been recovered.
So he went over to do humanitarian stuff and ended up in the military? I mean,
these people are programmed. Consider the fact that in Ukraine, they're literally effectively arresting people. I don't know if you see these videos of them, grabbing these, healthy young men and literally forcing them into conscription to go fight this war. And because our media has sold this thing in a way that you have people volunteering. Like literally traveling, and then you have this nutbag, the second nutbag that tried to kill the president. I mean, it's scary. These people get so brainwashed.
I agree with you on that. I want to go check in with our sponsor here, Kalshi, kalshi.com/Tim Young, if you guys enjoy getting involved in politics with your wallet. Right now, Indiana versus Oklahoma City is going crazy right now. A lot of people are throwing money into that to make a couple of bucks. But if we go over to the political tab.
And it's rigged.
Not Kalshi, but the NBA maybe. We should talk about that. Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about. Not Kalshi.
Who will vote for the next budget reconciliation bill in the Senate? And I don't know why I just jumped back to my own screen. Looks like Ron Johnson, 62%, Susan Collins, 56%. Again, Mitch McConnell, 81%, Josh Hawley, 88%.
We're hearing it's got the votes.
It does appear that Kalshi believes that they have the votes over there. That's one thing that we can talk about there. And then I just saw Israel. Will there be a new U.S.-Iran nuclear deal this year? Right now, it looks like 43% chance, according to the markets over on Kalshi.com. While we talk about everything that's happening in Iran and Israel right now, and also I believe I saw another.
What's your bet, Tim? Or give it a percentage.
Well, they don't have any nuclear power anymore. They have no nuclear capabilities basically in Iran anymore. I'm going to go ahead and say that they're going to have a deal. I'm going to say 65%. What do you think?
I'm with you. I mean the same.
When you got nothing to sign a deal on, you might as well.
Where's your leverage?
They have zero. They have what we like to call zero.
Hey, how about? I know you're on this subtopic right now, but before we go, because this is one of the things people are talking about today is, the Minnesota assassin, and what take do you have there? Because it's all very convoluted right now in terms of this guy's motive.
I think the guy's a Democrat, and I think that these people have been radicalized by everything in the media and their own party to believe that they need to start a civil war, and
because this woman that he killed, your thesis, she voted
against
in support of immigration reform. Yeah. Interesting. I actually don't know, and I, as a news guy, I'm comfortable saying I don't know, because I like to let a lot of the facts come in. Because initially with all these things, it's always true, as also with the fake hate stuff, there's instant reaction, Juicy Smollett and blah, 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 all this stuff. I like to see what's being reported, who's reporting it, try to understand the context before forming any judgment. But it is a crazy story. By the way, in this case, this guy could just be nuts.
I mean, in most cases, yes. But yeah, I can see what you're saying there. What world leader will be up?
But the race to define him by a lot, like both sides, is always so interesting to me. Like sometimes, back to your early in the show, you were talking about our journalistic ethics and integrity, right? Like sometimes you gotta just wait until you can learn more of the facts before reporting certain conclusions.
I don't think, by the way, here we go. Will Elon unfollow Trump this year? I don't think he will. I don't think he will at all.
I've clearly bored Tim.
Well, it's been a long day, sir. Congress funds NPR this year, 21% chance. I mean, there's just a lot of who will leave their role in the Trump administration this year. This is kind of a close one here. Pete Hegseth, Peter Navarro, and Lutnick. All I don't think any of them are going to leave.
They're gunning for Hegseth.
They really are.
They hate him.
But I don't think he goes anywhere. I think he stays. In defiance of the left, I think he stays. And I don't think he's going anywhere for a long time. All right. Well, that being said, go check out Kalshi.com/Tim Young if you want to go get involved in all these markets. Also, I need to shout out my friends over at Ezra Zion Cigars. Boom. Look at that. Ezra Zion Cigars. This is for the veterans down the street for me. I still need to take them down there and do Veterans Appreciation Month instead of Pride Month. They sent me a box of cigars to send and go give to them. Also, I'm going to have the Ninja Bread Man cigars tonight. Again, they make small batch cigars, batches from 350 to 400 sticks per batch with very, very limited tobacco. And I had a blast today. I got to try a new one that's going to it tastes like it's got Coca-Cola. When you retrohale, it's got all the notes of a soda in it, and it's really, really cool. That's going to be coming out very soon. But my next one tonight, Ninja Bread Man. Very excited to get one of those guys in. They do a different one of those every year as well. Again, you want to get in on those things, go to, I believe it's EzraZionCigars.com. Let me just double check to get the website up for you guys. EzraZionStore.com. Go over to Ezra Zion Store and check them out. Here we go. So we've got Kalshi.com/Tim Young. We've got the Ezra Zion Store. And of course, our friends over at the American Beverage Association, who are very kind as well to us over here. They have helped with lots of things on this show, and I'm very happy to have them as a sponsor, talking about the history of America and how soft drinks have employed a lot of great Americans and been there for kind of everything. So awesome for them. Thanks for being here, Chris. Dallas Express again. I mean, what more do you need to say about the Dallas Express? Anything?
DallasExpress.com.
I want to go.
Yeah, come see us.
Before I would like to meet with the etiquette. Do you know the etiquette queen? I want to dish with the etiquette. I want to know.
All right, I'll take care of it.
I want to talk etiquette.
Yeah.
Is that her? She looks very classy. Is that her?
Right.
No.
Yeah. I
no,
think so.
it
Yeah.
says women exiting a vehicle.
Oh, it's not?
Image by Canva.
Well, that's disappointing.
I'm sure she's classy. Like, why isn't there a photo? Putnam. I know that I dug deep, by the way, into the website to find this article. So you get me the etiquette queen, and not
right,
woman
I
exiting
got
a
it.
vehicle, and I will and I'll have her on here.
I'll get you the actual etiquette queen.
Etiquette queen. We can both say that. We should say it 10 times real fast. Anyway, all right, Chris, thanks for being here as always, and I will see you soon. I'm
Thanks,
sure.
brother.
Happy to have you on, and then tell James that he's a bitch for not being here.
All right, Viva Squirt McReynolds. Squirt Reynolds, sorry.